Welcome back, everyone, to the main stage, and I'm delighted to be joined by the team from HSBC. So we've got Claudine, who's the Graduate Recruitment Manager at HSBC, and when you come to think about questions, I guess any recruitment-related questions can go to her. And we're also joined by Erin, Wealth and Personal Banking graduate, and Aisha, who's Commercial Banking graduate. So we've got a lot of different parts of HSBC covered today. I'll disappear off, and so Claudine, Erin, Aisha, over to you.
Thanks so much, Ali, and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this HSBC session, specifically focused on commercial banking and wealth and personal banking. So as Ali mentioned, my name is Claudine Vega. I'm the Graduate Recruitment Manager at HSBC UK. I'm also joined by Erin and Aisha today to give you an insight into CMB and WPB, respectively. So they'll be talking through their day-to-day activities, but also our different graduate programs. We're really, really pleased to see so many of you on the line today. And I did see an agenda full of really insightful sessions and presentations. So we hope this session will be just as useful, and we'll be able to answer some further questions that you may have, but also give you a real insight into HSBC and the programs we have on offer. So over the next few minutes, I will just give you a really brief overview of HSBC, the opportunities we have available, also talk you through our selection process so you know what to expect should you wish to apply. And then I'll be handing over to our graduates to tell you more about what they do on a daily basis. So I'd hope many of you would have actually heard of HSBC already. You'll see lots of facts and figures on the slide. We are an international and universal bank with a really unique history, but also structure. We are the biggest bank in Europe and one of the biggest in Asia. We also have a strong presence in the Middle East, Latin America, just to name a few. So hopefully that will give you some reassurance that you'll be joining a career that does offer a wealth of opportunities globally, where you will be interacting with colleagues from all over. And hopefully this will also give you a strong platform for any other development opportunities that you may be looking into. There are different business areas that we recruit into, and some of these are listed on this slide. So depending on which year you're currently in, you can apply to our Inside program if you're in year one. These are typically 3 days happening around April, so springtime. Applications for all of these programs that you see listed here are already open for applications since the 1st of September, and we do encourage early applications as we do recruit on a rolling basis. We usually close applications around January, so early January. So again, please do apply sooner rather than later, hopefully following today's session. And if you have any questions around our selection process, then we'd be happy to answer those towards the end of the session. If you are a penultimate year students, then obviously you can apply to our summer internship program. These are typically around 10 weeks, and they are represented across all of the business areas that you see listed here, except of global operations. We may potentially introduce it in future, but for the moment, it's in CMB, GBNM, WPB, and technology. And if you're in your final year or a recent graduate, you can also apply to our graduate programs. These vary in length as well, so they can be 18 months or 24 months. Some of them include opportunities abroad as well. So again, depending on where your interest may be in, you can apply to those accordingly. And further information you can find on our website. Here are just some awards that we've won over the years and that we've been recognized for. Again, we're just sharing this with you to give you reassurance, but also to encourage you to apply to our programs, because you would be joining an award-winning graduate or internship program that is widely recognized. And we do get really positive feedback from our graduates and interns as well. So hopefully this will encourage you to submit an application to us. Moving on, if you are interested in applying, I just wanted to briefly talk you through our selection process. So it would include a brief online application form, should only take around 10 to 20 minutes. So it would usually just ask for your personal details, some D&I information that is optional. So no additional questions that would ask you to spend too much time on it. If you then succeed through the process, you would get invited to what we call an online immersive assessment. So again, it just talks you through some different scenarios of successes and challenges that you would potentially experience at HSBC. And we'd like to see how you would react to those and how you would manage some of those situations. The OIA itself would take around 50 minutes to complete. So again, we would just encourage you to practice as much as you can beforehand. Do your research on HSBC as well before you attempt to complete these online assessments. Regardless of whether you pass the OIA or not, you receive a personalized feedback report from us at HSBC to help you in future applications, but also to work on any development areas that you may have. If you are successful, though, you get invited to an online job simulation that takes around 35 minutes. And this involves a number of assessments that could involve rankings or multiple choice questions. So this particular exercise would offer you an insight into the business area that you're applying for. So if it's CMB or WPB, then obviously the job simulation you would be taking would be focusing on one of those business areas. And then should you succeed in all of these stages, fingers crossed, you would get invited to what we call a virtual experience day, which pretty much is a virtual assessment center. And that consists of several parts, again, digital micro exercises, but also a strengths-based interview and a business technical motivational interview. So ideally, we would want you to go through this process fairly quickly. We do always encourage early applications and talk you through the process as well. So there are a number of events that we're hosting over the next couple of weeks, again, just to give you further insight into these different stages that I just talked you through and to help you succeed throughout the selection process. So do have a look at further events and activities that we're offering to applicants on our website. So I'll be handing over to Erin at this point to give you more of an overview of WPB, and then Aisha will talk you through CMB as well, again, to help you make an informed decision. Should you have any questions whatsoever on other business areas not covered today, we'd be very happy to connect you with the relevant recruiter, but today we'll be focusing on CMB and WPB in particular. So I'll be handing over to Erin now. So Erin, over to you.
Thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Erin and I'm a Wealth and Personal Banking graduate, and I joined the scheme in 2020 after finishing university. Before the grad scheme, I studied economics at the University of Liverpool, and then before going into my final university year, I actually also completed the HSBC summer internship. This is kind of where I got introduced to HSBC, and it really sparked my interest in the company. So it was a no-brainer when I got offered the grad scheme off the back of my internship. Since starting the scheme in September, I've completed my customer journey placement, and recently I've embarked on my leadership placement. My customer journey placement was in UK Digital, specifically in the digital engagement and adoption teams. These teams essentially try and get as many of our customers as possible to take up our digital channels. I really love this placement in digital because everything moves really fast, and as a young person, I think it's really easy to relate to wanting kind of really smooth and efficient digital journeys. So it's really nice to be part of that at HSBC. I've recently started my leadership placement where I'm lucky enough to be managing a team of frontline agents within our contact centres. This is such a great opportunity and so rare to manage people at this early stage in your career. So I think this really shows the trust that HSBC puts in its graduates. And I'm really enjoying this little extra bit of responsibility that comes with managing people and finding it really rewarding. When you first join HSBC, you don't kind of get chucked into the deep end. There's an induction to start with where you get to meet other graduates, learn about some of the key skills that will be needed on the scheme, and then also hear from some senior leaders in the bank. We also had a global induction where we had a chance to connect with HSBC graduates across the globe. And then my final two placements will be in risk and then strategy. So this is kind of an overarching view of what your grad scheme structure would look like. So yeah, next slide, please, Claudine. Thank you. It's slightly different to the structure of my current grad scheme. It's just a little bit shorter, but essentially you get offered the same things. So in the first few weeks, you'll also go through an induction both in the UK and then globally. And then your first placement will be your customer journey placement, where you gain an understanding of kind of how we put the customer at the heart of everything we do, get a better understanding of our frontline customer interactions, and then the channels and products that we use. Then in your second placement or placements, so you essentially get the choice of whether you do 1 6-month placement or 2 3-month placements, where you're kind of going to have an understanding of the operations side at HSBC. And then finally, you'd complete a 6-month rotation focused on our strategy and our people. And here you would still have the opportunity to manage a team if you would be interested in doing that. So I think that's really good. And then the ultimate aim of the grad scheme is to kind of gain experience, identify the areas of the bank that interest you, where you really excel, before attempting to kind of roll off into a full-time job here. So I think it's quite cool that throughout your placements, you kind of meet a lot of graduate alumni, because I think it shows where your career could potentially progress to. So that's really nice. So next slide, please. Thank you. So now I'm going to kind of just chat through what an everyday day in the life of a graduate might look like. I mean, it's never the same every single day, so this is quite difficult, but this is just an example of a day. So to start your day, you might have a team meeting where everyone gets together, understands each other's priorities for the week, kind of allocate outstanding tasks. And I think in the past couple of years, obviously, because of COVID, we've been home working a lot. So I think it's really important here to kind of check in with each other and make sure everyone's doing okay, which is a really nice thing in team meetings. And then at 10 a.m, I've put in a project call, because a lot of the work I do is kind of project based, where there'll be kind of a short or long term overarching goal that different teams are working together to hit. So you might catch up with kind of the relevant teams that are working on this project. For example, in digital, I would run campaigns where one team would kind of work on the specific group of customers that needed targeting, and then another team might work on building the messaging, for example, be it through email or the messaging you see on your online or mobile banking apps. And then you work together kind of to reach your overarching goal. So I think collaboration is really key in these areas. So working well as a team is a really, really great skill to have. I really enjoy seeing kind of visual plans on a page and like tracking work effectively. So these are also skills that you could work on when involved in a project. So yeah, thank you. Next slide. So at 11 a.m, I've put in an intern working group call. So as part of the graduate scheme, you'll have the opportunity to help out the graduate community in some way. And I opted to apply for the internship events team, because being a past intern myself, I really wanted to ensure that the 2021 cohort of interns had as good as an experience as I did. So the internship working group essentially works together to plan and organise the internship, and is made up entirely of graduates. There are also so many other groups you can get involved with, and I'm sure Aisha will touch on which group she's involved with later as well. But essentially, you build connections with other graduates and then work to deliver tangible results. So it's a really nice thing to be involved with. And then at midday, I put in a webinar run by an ERG group. HSBC has various employee resource groups who host events that you can get involved with. And this involvement might run as deep as helping the event run, or simply just attending as a spectator. An ERG is essentially a group of people with a common interest. So I've used an example here of Balance, which focuses on advocating for gender equality and a gender balanced workforce. So essentially, it's just a group that you really strongly associate with, and then you can kind of meet like-minded people, and it's really, really nice. So yeah. Next slide, please. So lunchtime is a really nice time to have a bit of a longer break away from your desk. Obviously, it gets quite a lot just sitting behind a desk all day, so try and take some time to get away from it, be it getting outside or just kind of moving away from screens. I find it personally really useful to block out my lunch times in my diary, because then it kind of sets the precedent that you value your time away from the desk and you don't want people to kind of book meetings in that time, and you make sure you take your lunch every single day. So yeah, that's just a little tip from me around lunchtime. Obviously, it's really important to take those breaks away from your desk. Next slide, please. So after lunch, I've put in a one-to-one with my manager. The frequency with which you kind of communicate with your manager completely depends on yours and your manager's preference. You kind of should discuss your workload in these sessions and any issues you're having. But I'd also say kind of feel comfortable to discuss your development as well. You chat about what's going well, where you feel you're excelling, but also kind of bring up the areas that you're struggling with and what you could do with some more help with. But having those development conversations is obviously really important. However, you might not always have time to discuss those with your manager, but also work gets in the way, like you could get distracted and start talking about work. So I'd really recommend the mentor scheme at HSBC. So it's something that I got involved with kind of a few months into my graduate scheme, and essentially you kind of fill out a profile and then you get matched with potential mentors. And if you feel like your priorities kind of align, you can say they're a good match for you. Personally, I ended up with 2 mentors. It just kind of happened that way, both of which were in completely different areas of the bank, which was really nice to kind of discuss their experiences and learn more about different areas. And then one was even based in New York, which just kind of shows the opportunity available to kind of meet people across the globe. And obviously it's a great way to kind of discuss your development with someone that's outside of your close working group, and then yeah, just kind of discuss their experiences and learn from their experiences as well. So it's a really great opportunity there. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to kind of discuss the experiences I've found most valuable since being on the grad scheme. So I'd probably say it's just having the opportunity to get involved with so many different parts of the bank in such a short period of time. I'm not really certain myself what area I'd like to go into, so it's nice to kind of dip your toes in multiple areas. And then I'd say, secondly, being treated as a valued member of the team is just really nice to see. Even though I've had less experience than other members, I was still given the same level of respect and responsibility, so that was really nice. And then what skills have you developed through your experience? I would say my confidence has come on a long way since starting the graduate scheme. I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone on multiple occasions, and it's really rewarding to kind of see that transition from when I started to now. And then I've also been given the opportunity to take on a professional qualification through the scheme, which has helped me develop my banking knowledge, and I can then apply it to the work I'm doing for the bank. Next slide, please. So here are kind of my biggest successes and biggest challenges. And again, as I've just said, I've loved being a valued member of the team, kind of giving back to my graduate community and making new connections. And I think these have all ultimately contributed to my success. It's been a huge challenge to manage people for the first time, but one that I'm really, really grateful to have. And also I'd say it's really challenging to speak up when you're the least experienced person on the call, but I found when I have spoken up that it's been really valued and kind of taken on as part of the conversation. So yeah, it's also difficult to balance graduate and placement commitments because you've got a lot going on, but ultimately if you just kind of work on your time management, this comes kind of naturally in the end. So what I've enjoyed most of the grad scheme is meeting new people and building connections within the bank. And this is especially true for other graduates because they know exactly what you're going through and you can kind of lean on each other and support each other throughout the process. And then finally, my piece of advice to you guys, if you did think about applying to the grad scheme, I would just say go for it. Do your research, decide if it's something that you think you'd enjoy, but just don't hold back, just take the leap, because I think sometimes you can find your worries or concerns hold you back. But just honestly, I did not expect to be here when I was applying to the internship. So I would just say go for it, and you'll be fine. And the grad scheme is a really great one, so I really encourage you to go for it. So I think now I'm going to pass over to Aisha, who's going to kind of share her experiences as a commercial banking graduate.
Thank you, Erin. That was really interesting. So yeah, a bit about me. Nice to meet everyone. So I'm on the commercial banking grad scheme, and I studied history with a year abroad at the University of Birmingham. Like Erin, I also did the commercial banking internship in my penultimate year of uni, and was really happy to be accepted onto the grad scheme. So, as Erin was saying, we kind of kicked off the grad scheme with some big welcome inductions, which was really a great way to meet everyone, not just in England, but all across the world. So that was a really good way to kick off working life, especially as we had a lot of different training sessions, as it was quite daunting at first thinking about starting work, especially from home. So we started in September 2020, yes, and now currently in my third placement. But in my first placement, I was really focused on helping to improve processes within the bank, within strategic change and simplification. I also had a go doing some investment finance, which is obviously quite far out of my comfort zone, given the fact that I studied history at uni, but they really train you up and gave me all the skills that I needed to do that. And now currently I'm working in global trade and receivables finance, which is all about supply chains. So that's really interesting as well. So I've had quite varied experiences so far, and I have a few more placements to go. So all very exciting. And I'll now break down the CMB grad program. If you could move on to the next slide. So the way that the program kind of works is that you have 3 6-month placements. Your first placement will be in the front line. So you'll be in a customer facing role, dealing with different clients. There's a variety of different roles which you could go into, whether that be with really large corporates or smaller business banking customers. So that's what you'll spend the first 6 months doing. And then you move into either risk management, or a product placement. So these are really good in the sense that you'll be able to leave the grad scheme having a really well-rounded experience of the different areas, not just frontline, but also how to manage risk and also understanding the different products, which is a really key part of why the customers come to the bank. Then after that, if you want, you have a chance to stay on to the grad scheme for another 6 months. But as Erin was saying, ultimately, the point of the grad scheme is for you to test out what you're interested in and then roll off into whatever role you feel is the best fit for you. So it's a really great way to kind of dip your toe into the water and decide what you like and what you don't like in a job. So now I'll move on into a day in my life. So first off, kind of start with a weekly team meeting, and it is a really great way just to kind of check in with the team, especially as a lot of the work we do now, we still aren't in the office. I mean, I've been into the office a couple of times, but for the majority of the grad scheme, I've been working from home. So it's really useful to kind of understand what else is going on within the team. It's also quite interesting to know what other people are doing, because you can then also get involved with that outside of what you're currently doing, which is a really great way to help out and add value. So we'll normally have a weekly team meeting for half an hour, just a bit of chit chat as well. And then the next meeting is like what I'm currently working on. So I'll have like a more in-depth, detailed catch up just with one person to kind of flag where I'm at. Do I have any problems? Do I need any help? What should I do next? So this is something that I would just have with the person I work most closely with in the team. And although I put it in at 10 o'clock, often what tends to happen is we'll be messaging quite frequently throughout the day, and we have quite a few ad hoc meetings just because we find that's the easiest way to communicate. And it's most like being in an office, even though we're at home. So that's kind of how I would do if I was working on a project. Then on the next slide. So in this placement, we were working across the bank with a lot of internal stakeholders, which was a really great opportunity because you're helping solve problems for other people. You get to understand the different job roles they're doing and also help solve problems. So we would normally have a meeting with them, talk through, for example, when I was in my investment finance role, we would be talking about the different funding that they could be getting and reasons why they may have overspent or underspent. Then lunch, as Erin was saying, lunch is really important to break up the day, get some time away from the screen so that you can return feeling refreshed. I found during lockdown when I was working, I really helped me to take a walk, get outside and get a bit more energy back. And I, like Erin, I also block out an hour in my lunch, just so that I can really set that precedent. So at one, I tend to have a delivery forum. So this is working with other teams within the bank. So everyone will come to this meeting, give their updates. So this really gives a great oversight and kind of helps us understand what's going on and how we fit into that. And then at 2, I tend to have, sorry, if you go on to the next slide, and the one after that. Yeah, so this is, as Erin was saying, the grad scheme is really supportive, and I also have mentors, but even within the grad scheme, you will be supported by the emerging talent. So, for example, I in this week have booked in a check-in. We can talk about my personal development plan, what I want to get out, any potential things which I feel might be a problem, and in addition to giving their advice, they also will kind of help coach you through it and help you focus on the goals, which is really helpful. And then graduate attraction. So as Erin was saying, there's lots of different communities within the grad community that you can get involved in. And I personally am the graduate attraction co-lead. So I'm the CMB lead. We have a WPB lead as well. And we work with the recruitment team to help attract top talent towards the bank. So for example, this event right now, we're coordinating a lot of other events and running a few events as well for students. So in this call, I'll either be having a meeting with the whole team and there's 10 grads all together, or potentially a meeting with just a few of the different streams within that, such as the content or the diversity and inclusion needs. So that's a really fun way to participate, get to meet people within the grad scheme. So now moving on to the next slide, kind of the most valuable experience. So I put here about the graduate community, and I do think that that's something that's really sets HSBC apart from other grad programs, because you have so many opportunities to build up your skills outside of your placement. In CMB, there isn't a leadership opportunity, but from during the graduate attraction team, I've been able to lead a team of 8 other people. So that's been a really great way. And also, I think you can build on your interests. For example, within the employee resource groups, there's balance, as Erin was talking about, there's sustainability. There's lots of things that you can get involved in. So I've really enjoyed that. And in terms of what skills I think I've developed, I mean, there's so many skills, but I definitely think a great one has been communication, and also kind of learning how to be flexible, because you have to really adapt to different things that's going on in the team, different things that's happening in the world. So I feel like those 2 are some really key skills. But moving on to the next slide, as I was saying, I think one of the biggest things which I've had to do is go outside of my comfort zone, especially when I came to the finance team with my history background. So yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. But there are so many different things on this slide and on Erin's slide that you can see. And I think the best thing about the grad scheme was that it was so flexible and you can do so many different things. Say if you aren't enjoying a particular placement, you know, in a couple of months I'm going to be doing this placement. So I would really recommend for you guys to apply and just go for it, because yeah, I think it's definitely worth at least getting involved into.
Great. Thanks so much, Aisha. We're now opening up for questions, and I believe Emma is also on the line to share some with us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for that. That was brilliant and so insightful. I love the days in the life. I think that really brings everything to life. Day in the life. Yeah, it was awesome. We've had loads of questions coming through. We've got about 5 minutes. So just to remind everybody, put any last minute questions in. Any ones that don't get covered, there is HSBC's employer booth they will be in for a little while, and also links to all of their websites and all of their documents afterwards as well. So some really interesting questions, and because we're all about inspiring females into financial services today, I think it'd be really lovely to start with this one that came in during the talk, which was there a specific female role model that inspired you to pursue a career in banking? I don't know who wants to take that one.
I wouldn't say that I actually had a specific female role model. I think when I was at uni, I did attend quite a few different careers events, and there were a lot of really powerful women talking at them. I also think that one of the motivating factors behind me having a career in finance is just because I liked watching The Apprentice. And there were some quite cool women on there. So yeah, but Erin, I don't know if you have an answer.
Yeah, I'd say I'm probably the same. I wouldn't say that there's someone that I can pinpoint that I'm like, oh, I want to be like you because you work in banking. But obviously there's a stigma around banking that's like the white male, right? And I'm really here for us to get rid of that. And if I can help kind of promote a culture of diversity and inclusion, that I really want to do that. So I'd say that's one of the biggest goals that I have for working in banking, is to kind of be the voice of women as well. So I think even though I don't have someone in banking specifically, I'd say you can be your own role model. Go for it.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because there was a question specifically from Hazel around, have you ever experienced lad culture? And if you have, how have you dealt with it, and have you had support in dealing with it?
I'd say working in digital, a lot of my colleagues were men, and I often would kind of feel intimidated to speak up because I was the only woman in the room. But I've spoken to my mentors about this, who are both women, and they've kind of just told me, you know, you need to be the voice in the room. You're the only woman there, so make your voice heard. And I think just recognizing that your voice is valued is so important, and just making those steps towards improving the diversity in banking is a positive thing. So if you can just kind of break down those barriers, know that you are valued, your voice should be heard. Obviously we all know that women and men should be completely equal, so just having the confidence to speak up is really important, and building that, it's gonna take time. I don't think anyone knows that it's definitely going to take time, but the more you practice and the more you just put yourself out there, the easier it gets.
Amazing. And I think for you to add, Claudine, all okay?
Yeah, no, to be perfectly honest, we do try and also match interns and grads to role models within the business, just to give you that support, I think, once you actually join. So if we do come across that, then obviously we'd have a conversation with the interns and grads who'd be joining us. But it's not something I've come across personally whilst at HSBC. So I think it's not something to worry about, I think, for any future applicants at this moment.
That's amazing. And there's some really specific questions around the application process. So do feel free to ask them after the event as well, and in the booth or on the website. But one thing that I did think was really interesting was this question around, what would you say to someone that you know who did, say, a humanities or a history degree, and how can it be directly linked into a career in finance?
So I think that, in all honesty, it doesn't matter what degree you've done, as long as you have an interest. All skills can be transferable, and also it's really good to have a diversity of thought in the bank. So if you're interested in a career in finance, then go for it, and don't let yourself be intimidated. As long as you do the research and you do the preparation, there's nothing to stop you. And a lot of grads who work at HSBC have done a lot of different humanities subjects, as well as the classic maths and econ.
And I'd say, from as a perspective of someone who did do an economics degree, I have not used my degree at all. So I think it's important to show that side as well, that it really doesn't matter. And that is why you can literally get on the grad scheme with any degree. So don't worry about it.
I would echo all of that. Also, from a selection point of view, we wouldn't distinguish whatsoever. So we welcome any application from any degree background, and there is a robust induction program in place as well to support those who may not have the relevant background in this instance.
Amazing. That's been definitely inspirational. You hit the brief absolutely, and I hope that you all got a lot out of that. And I know from the questions it seems like there's so much more that people want to know, so do feel free to get in touch with the HSBC team. Brilliant presentation, and yeah, just thanks so much for being part of today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All the best.
Thanks everyone.